Welcome to SOLIDWORKS Live, where today we are doing the live launch of something new, something relevant, something for you. But let's hold that thought for just 1 second. Now, let's take a look back. As you may recall, last year around this time, we told you that we were adding cloud services for SOLIDWORKS to each new seat of SOLIDWORKS 3D CAD. And suddenly, at your fingertips, you had design sharing, markup, storage, and revision features right inside of SOLIDWORKS Desktop. And today, we have something new for you. That's right, because we know that somewhere, somehow, you are tracking your projects. We know you are managing changes and design releases, BOMs, vendor parts, somewhere, somehow. And today is about ending somewhere, somehow for SOLIDWORKS users, because Cloud PLM adds onto cloud services to potentially give you it all. And today we're talking to two experts here at Dassault Systèmes, and let's now get to the first one, our go-to-market lead for Cloud PLM, Katarina Miklos. So we're here on SOLIDWORKS Live. Want to welcome on Katarina to the show. Katarina, how's it going?
Hi, Sean. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
It's my pleasure. So I had to have you on. You're like our PLM go-to-market expert here over in Brand Offer Marketing. And I wanted to start off on the ground floor. You know, this episode, it's speaking about something called Cloud PLM, but before we get into that and what all that entails and the packaging and the technicals, which we will get into in this episode, I wanted to ask you, what is PLM and how is it different from a PDM?
Yeah, Sean, I think those terms actually get thrown around quite interchangeably, and I think understandably so. Because PDM, product data management, and PLM, product lifecycle management, they're software solutions that help companies manage their product data. But the key difference, though, is that PDM is focused on managing design data, while PLM is focused on product development processes. Or put differently, PDM is a subset of PLM. PDM systems focus on engineering and design phase of the product life, and while PLM systems, they tackle the entire product development process from product ideation to retirement and disposal.
That's a great way of putting it. It's very simple, right? PDM is kind of encompassed within PLM. And as you've mentioned, it extends beyond it, right? In ways that, as we'll see with Cloud PLM, can actually be pretty simple. These are things we're doing already, but maybe in a more streamlined, focused capacity. So I wanted to move on to another part of that name, Cloud PLM, and that's cloud. So as we've discussed several times before and after its release, in each new seat of SOLIDWORKS, beginning in July of 2023, hard to think that's almost a year ago now, each new seat of SOLIDWORKS comes with cloud services. So if you don't know what that is, in short, it's just a variety of features that allow you to share, markup, store, and revise your CAD data on the cloud. So you might be looking at this new release we have here, Cloud PLM, and you might be thinking, and I want to ask you this, Katarina, why are we now choosing to release something called Cloud PLM?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Sean, SOLIDWORKS 3D CAD now comes with cloud services, which basically means that your desktop SOLIDWORKS 3D CAD is connected to a cloud-based product innovation platform, the 3D Experience platform, which allows you to manage your CAD data from one central location. You can keep control of your revisions, administer change actions, maintain links between files, control access through authorization. SOLIDWORKS users now can share their designs with external stakeholders by just simply pushing a button without those external stakeholders having to download any viewers. So it's something that every single SOLIDWORKS user absolutely needs to have and can use. Cloud PLM builds on top of cloud services, so it makes cloud services fully scalable. When our customers are ready to take a more, perhaps better way of managing their bill of materials, for example, where Cloud PLM basically ensures that everyone, CAD and non-CAD, stakeholders alike, are on the same page. And they basically have the same BOM view, which leads to less errors, less rework, less duplicate work, and really less drag on the engineering time and faster time to market. Cloud PLM also includes a project planning app that is connected directly with the design data. So this gives everyone real-time project progress and easy access to design data for review. The app is CAD aware. It lives on the 3D Experience platform with your product data, which is really cool because you don't need to jump from one tool to another. That also potentially wastes time and creates errors.
So, Katerina, when we think SolidWorks, I think most of us would say we primarily think designers and engineers. But when we think Cloud PLM, who is that really for?
Yeah, this is absolutely for designers and engineers. Cloud PLM is also for non-CAD stakeholders, such as engineers defining the product architecture, design managers providing input, field engineers reporting product issues or design changes, sales engineers capturing specific customer requirements. Yeah, so it's basically really, it helps non-CAD stakeholders and CAD stakeholders to collaborate. And SOLIDWORKS users finally can be maybe left alone and not bothered by all non-CAD stakeholders who usually go to them asking for export of data or a PDF. Now they can just go into the system and find the information they need because they have access to that CAD data. They have access to that single source of truth, that virtual product definition. Really allows engineers to have more time and not do admin tasks such as reporting or like sending files to the marketing department or sending their progress report to a sales engineer.
Katerina, thank you so much for jumping on here at SolidWorks Live. I know it's your first appearance, but it surely will not be your last. So definitely look out for a future invitation. All right, so if you know anything about my specific team here at SolidWorks, you know that we're basically all CSWEs, that is Certified SolidWorks Experts, if you tuned into the last episode of SolidWorks Live about certifications. And we're all design lovers who just so happen to have positions here at SolidWorks where we show our amazing customers, you guys, accessibly technical looks at how to do their jobs simpler. And now, it is time. Let's do the deep dive on the technology inside Cloud PLM with my teammate, Mike Sandy. We are live here on SolidWorks Live with Mike Sandy. Mike, how are you doing?
Good. How you doing, Sean?
Good. It's a pleasure to have you. So you've been working a lot with our new Cloud PLM offers, and I wanted to ask you, can you talk me through this? How does Cloud PLM streamline the transition from starting out with an idea, like Katerina mentioned, through to the finished product?
Yeah, it's a great question. We started to kind of look into how PLM fits into what our users do today. To me, right away, it came to mind, like, this is really what bookends your design process. We're all familiar with going in, starting with a new template, creating part assembly drawings, all of that. But there are a lot of moving pieces that happen during that phase. Obviously, what you're doing as a designer, as an engineer. But what about going into that or coming out of it, right? There's a whole release cycle, there's approval cycles to be able to get that idea to the shop floor and eventually to the end customer. So I had to ask ChatGPT to see what the Ask Me Like 5, and it was a great answer. It came up with a Lego analogy. So Sean, think of it like this: if you and I and a bunch of our buddies were to get together and build something like a space shuttle out of Legos, how would we go about that? It wouldn't be just showing up and starting to just snap everything together, because there's no real structure to that, right? Having a solution like PLM, that lets us go in and have someone who's going to be in charge, maybe the idea of the project, who's in charge of what and when, because there is a linear order to these to be, at least to be effective and efficient. Getting into things like who is actually working on the fuselage, who's going to be working on the wings, the rocket, all of the elements of that. That's all controlled through PLM. So when you think about back into the design, we have things like PDM that controls the data. PLM controls the process that goes around the whole concept from the beginning idea, those requirements that go into the product, all the way to it being released, going into manufacturing, and getting out the door. That's really what PLM does, is it holds everything together. It keeps it unified. It keeps that process running smoothly all the way from the beginning concept to that end final deliverable of getting it out to your customer or into manufacturing. So I hope that makes sense, but ChatGPT, I'll give you some credit on that.
Yeah, and like we've discussed, you shared that analogy with me before. Everyone on our LinkedIn, everyone on our YouTube, I'm sure I appreciate a good Lego analogy. So certainly helps there. You're definitely scoring some points there. But, on SOLIDWORKS Live, and of course, we mentioned at the very top, you've been on SOLIDWORKS Live several times, especially over the past couple years. We'd like to dive deeply into the topics that we cover. And specifically today with Cloud PLM, let's dive deeper on the technology, the capabilities. So I wanted to ask you pointedly, what is innovative about how Cloud PLM enables cross-team and multi-site collaboration? And secondly, why is it innovative?
Sure. That's a big question. I think it's worth mentioning here that everyone on this call, everyone that works in design and engineering, in fact, there's a ton of different business entities out there outside of ours that do PLM, right? You guys are doing it today. It's just you're more than likely doing it in a disconnected solution. So, whether that's through email, I'm sure you're using Excel sheets at some point to get things done, or whether it's project planning, change orders are oftentimes done through just Word docs type things. You're doing this now. Where Cloud PLM really starts to elevate that is by bringing it onto a single source of truth, right? So you guys at this point, I hope have heard of the 3D Experience platform. And really what the 3D Experience platform is a structured database where everything can live and everything can talk to each other. And that's really the important element. So as you're designing, as you're an engineer, or you're going into a project, this database can start to structure your CAD assemblies before you even go in and build them, right? So if you're kind of configuring something, laying it out for a customer, hey, we'll need this and we'll need that. Our PLM solution allows that all the way into starting off a project with like Project Planner. We can go through and indicate who's going to be in charge of what and when, all the way through it. So by bringing this PLM process, which again, you're doing today, but connecting that all into one centralized location that's based on a database structure, this is where it really starts to elevate and really starts to come together and become an extremely powerful and really cool solution to dive into.
So I wanted to dive into and really zoom in on one major area of interest for many of our customers. And this is an area, like you've said, Mike, all of these areas that we're covering and assisting and connecting for our customers are things they're doing today. One thing that can be a pain, to be quite frank about it, is managing BOMs, managing bills of material. So what do we see our customers doing today, and how might solutions within Cloud PLM streamline or improve their processes there?
Yeah, I think it's an important topic for sure, because at the end of the day, the BOM is really the end deliverable that's going to get your product out the door, right? So having a bill of materials that's accurate to the representation of what's being manufactured, what's being assembled, all of those are important in the world of engineering. Where Cloud PLM allows to do that is to take what you're building in CAD and actually start to add into componentry to it that you'll need for that assembly or to get it to your customer. Things like grease or non-CAD items that you want to include on it. So the status quo, what we hear now is like just Excel sheets, exporting from a drawing. A lot of times, even just the drawing bill of materials on that PDF is really your end deliverable. But there needs to be more control around that. There needs to be more checks that go into it before we go in and start to really invest into the manufacturing or the assembly or that release of the bill of materials. So what we get into with Cloud PLM is again a cloud solution that is connected to a database. So you can do things like bring in your assembly and it'll build that BOM structure for it. Start to modify quantities. You can start to add in non-CAD items to it that are needed. Beyond that, you can also do really cool stuff like, hey, you know what? Like we already have this, but we're making another one that's a little different. In Cloud PLM, you can take an existing structure and bring it in and you can duplicate that and say, hey, we're going to reuse all of these parts. These ones have to be new part numbers. These ones we're going to just maybe create a new revision. You get a lot of that capability built into just managing the BOM itself. So I think kind of long answer short is like you're doing this today. It is very important to do it. It's very important to be very detailed oriented in your BOMs before they go and they're released. But there's better ways to do it. And looking at what we offer in the PLM solution is going to open your eyes, and like you'll be like, wow, that's what I've needed. And you may not even realize that.
I love your point about being able to use some of the tools, the apps within Cloud PLM to edit or configure the product structure, right? Because, and this is something that we talk about a lot here at SolidWorks, that over the years, we'll have conversations at a 3D Experience World conference or at a user group. And we hear you guys all the time, our designer and engineer friends talking and bemoaning, frankly, that a lot of times your coworkers will come to you for a rendering or to export a bill of materials, or because really you're the one who has the keys. You're the one who has SolidWorks. And historically, like that's made all the difference. And that's why you've been the go-to person, whether you like it or not, and you may not like it, that say a sales engineer has gone to for these sorts of things. But like you mentioned, being able to edit the product structure, configure it in a space that is just a lightweight web app, and not having to bug the SolidWorks user every time you need to do that in order to do your own job. I think that should make, say, a sales engineer in this case and the SolidWorks user, the designer, the engineer, quite happy, so that you're quite frankly using SolidWorks for the reason that you intend to.
Yeah, I think, Sean, on that topic, one of the conversations I had not too long ago with Lisa, who's our amazing PLM specialist here at Dassault, she brought up like, hey, there's a lot of people who want your BOM but do not care or do not like your structure. Like, depending on the downstream people that are leveraging that, whether that's procurement or it might be, the assemblies team or whoever, they're going to want to rearrange your BOM because they have other needs for it that you may not be thinking of. So having a capability that is, again, it's browser based, where they can log in, leverage your product structure, and change that, add quantities, modify, move things that are needed for them, might be like tooling fixturing or whatever. They can do that. So that's like the element that's like, oh yeah, I create this amazing deliverable from my CAD assemblies that I can then hand off, and now that allows them to go through and create their versions of it for their needs to be able to get the job done. So it's a good point, Sean. I hope happy you brought that up.
For sure. So we've, thanks largely to you, we've talked a lot about what Cloud PLM is, how it helps our users kind of connect formerly disparate pieces of what they and their coworkers are trying to accomplish to get a product to market. But now I want to talk a little bit about another question that comes up naturally, which is, how do I get it? What is it? How are you guys offering it? So you and I, we've used SolidWorks for a long time, and I think as our users dig more into our Cloud PLM offers, one thing they're going to notice that is seemingly similar possibly is that Cloud PLM has, your standard pro and premium offerings, which it sounds a lot like our favorite industry leading CAD package, right? It sounds a lot like how we offer SolidWorks and how we have offered SolidWorks for a number of years. So the question I wanted to ask you related to that, Mike, is where do these similarities start and maybe end there?
Yeah, that's a good one, and we've talked a lot about this internally on the packaging. So there is a PLM standard, pro, and premium offering, and what we don't want you guys to think is this is a good, better, best, because that's not what it is. The reason that these offerings are there and available is more of like, hey, we want to just get started with with PLM, with Cloud PLM of some flavor, and see how that impacts our company. So standard, we've looked at all of the capabilities, and a lot of this technology comes over from our brand Innovia, who's like they're the cream of the crop when it comes to PLM. So we've taken some of their solutions and we've looked at it in the lens of what our customers need and what they care about. And we've said, hey, you know what? In standard, this is a really good starting point. This is where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. And they're also going to be a little bit better discount rate because we are kind of pre-bundling these. So we're just helping you have access to them. That's going to get you going with Cloud PLM. But it isn't a good, better, best because each company, and we know this, each company out there is unique. What you do, the processes that you do, your goals, your short-term, long-term visions, all of that. So by getting started with PLM, and that might be the standard or might be the pro version, that's great. What works for you? You're not limited to that though. You can start to add on kind of more, I don't want to say niche, but more specific solutions that are for you, for your company and what you need today, as you grow, as you scale, as you expand, and as you find the value in having a PLM solution around you. So yeah, when you look at it, standard is a great place to start. That's got some project management to it. And as we just talked about, it's got the bill of materials way to be able to release those, modify, take care of them. And then you can grow from there. But your resellers are by far the best place to talk to. And we also have, Sean, if you'll talk, probably mention our landing site around the Cloud PLM solutions as well.
Yeah, and speaking of our SOLIDWORKS lineage, as we talk about data and process management, right? We're both familiar with our lineage of those areas, those solutions that we've offered historically. And one of the biggest in history specifically for on-premise storage and collaboration has been SOLIDWORKS PDM, which we know a lot of our customers are using happily today. So in terms of the concept or the topic of today, Cloud PLM, our Cloud PLM offers, what does the introduction of Cloud PLM mean for the SOLIDWORKS PDM customer, if anything, today?
Sure. Yeah, it's a really good question because it is confusing. I'll admit it. I think you got to step back and look at PDM versus PLM, and just a brief explanation. Like PDM is about managing the data. So this is in the world of design and engineering that we live in, right? This controls all of that, overwrites, revision control, versioning, all of that. PLM goes to the process. So that expands from, again, the bookends, the concept, the concept of going into a new product, all the way to getting that released. Where going back to kind of our lineage, as you mentioned, and if you're using SOLIDWORKS PDM today, great. You're already ahead of the curve. You've got a solution in mind. You've got a really good solution in mind. We have lots of happy customers out there that love it and continue to do so. It doesn't mean you don't have the opportunity to start to look at some of the PLM advantages. So like Project Planner, for a great one, right? This just lets you take a look at how are you going to lay out a project, who's in charge of what and when and how. That's a good entry point to basic PLM. So yeah, if you're using PDM today, that's amazing. Continue to do it. We do have a managed solution as well that gets a little bit more into the PLM worlds. That is an on-premise type solution, but you're not limited to those. You can start to look at how the cloud solution was, but I think you're in the right spot. And really, Sean, the big one is if you're using PDM today, you can still start to leverage just some of the things that we brought out in July, like being able to do share and markup to external or internal people through the web. That's available with all SOLIDWORKS user seats, but you're still going to manage your data locally as you are today. So great question. I think we're going to get that one a lot from our users as we go forward.
And it merits for stating, right? For new SOLIDWORKS seats, and it's available otherwise as well. You can contact your local value-added reseller for any questions you have on this. But for new SOLIDWORKS seats, again, we mentioned it at the very beginning, get all these cool capabilities within cloud services for SOLIDWORKS, including, like you just mentioned, share and markup. And you can use that even if you are, again, happily using SOLIDWORKS PDM. So yeah, great points. So Mike, I appreciate you bringing that up. But not only that, I appreciate you joining us here on SOLIDWORKS.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, always fun.
Thank you to everyone watching and to everyone who participated in this episode. Make sure you check out the video description here on YouTube for two things. One, a link to information on Cloud PLM located on 3dexperienceworks.com, and two, a link to the first look video for Cloud PLM as showcased by our friend, Mike Sandy. Now remember, as usual, the best contact for any solution that we talk about here on SOLIDWORKS Live is your value-added reseller. They have dedicated pros who can talk to you, just like Mike mentioned, about what fits best for your business. And if you learned anything today, and you like hearing announcements from us like Cloud PLM, be sure to like and subscribe. This is not the last episode we'll have this year on new announcements for SOLIDWORKS users. And we hope to see you next month here on SOLIDWORKS Live.